The next vehicle, you would think it's the S10, but it is actually the 2004 Mercury Grand Marquis. It is the newest vehicle I've ever owned, and it is the cheapest vehicle I've ever bought. While I was working at this used car dealership, this car was just sitting there. It's one of 2 cars that I bought with the intention of flipping. I did buy a 98 Ford Explorer that I ended up immediately flipping for, pennies really. It was really more so an experiment for me. My then boss was trying to get me into the art of flipping vehicles. She's like, look, you can take the cars that I don't want to have to pay you all the time to go fix, that wouldn't end up on my lot, that are too old. You can take these ones and buy them for dirt cheap, and then you can flip them. Grand Marquis was supposed to be one of those. I was talking to my mom about this. Her and I together, we both came up with a sort of business plan together. She runs recovery houses, and she houses people who have addictions, and she helps get them to programs, and she does a really good job at this. She has 2 houses of it, a men's and a women's house, and she's awesome. It's her life's work. So we were living in Port St. Lucie, and for people who don't know what Port St. Lucie is all about, which most people don't, so it's all suburbs. Everywhere, suburbs. And it's great because houses are very cheap there, but the thing is to get anywhere you really need a car, So everyone at these houses, whoever has a car, they're always taxi driver and stuff, and they're always out looking for cheap cars. So we came up with a business plan where we put liens on the titles. They'll give me half up front, and then they pay me, week by week, and I will do what I can to fix them. Charge them very cheap labor. They buy the parts, very cheap labor to fix them if they ever break down. It seemed like a solid business model. The Explorer was the first one that I sold in this. The Grand Marquis was supposed to be the next one. I definitely tried selling these cars with, mechanically them fixed as much as possible. I'm talking no noises, all lights off the dash, and AC working. Like, it's insane to do that for a car from the 90s. So I bought this Explorer for $600. I put a few $100s into it, and I sold it for $1,100. So at the end of the day, I'm only making like $200 on this car. I'm taking the loss while, this addict is helping repay me. All my customers would first get okayed by my mom if they are far enough in their program to be able to take the responsibility of a car, because you do need to have the job, you do need to be able to take these payments, and at the end of the day, I'm talking like, give me $50 a week until you finish paying off this car. You give me $600 for this car, and then you pay me $50 a week until you pay it off. This first experiment for this really put a bad taste in my mouth, because, she made her first 3 payments, but every once in a while she would try me, and I will let her and ask for double next time. But because I gave her that little leeway, she would just not pay me. It got to a point where I'm like, Ma, look, this woman has not paid me. She only owed me $200 for this car. I'm like, we need to get this car. She hasn't paid me in over a month. It was a whole fiasco trying to get this money. Got the money for the car. At that point, I'm like, I feel like I didn't even make money on this car. I still had the Grand Marquis, so I was like, let me try to fix it, get the AC working. Car ran like a top. All I needed was a battery and the AC to work, and then this car would have been sold. $500 I bought this car for. I would have sold it for $1,000 if I could get the AC working. I put a compressor in it, and it kept staying on until it damn near got red hot. I turned the car off, I unplugged it, and was thinking, what the hell's going on? Someone rigged the relay to stay on all the time. It was a whole wiring thing. I put a new relay in it, tried to fix it. Long story short, couldn't really fix it. The guy that wanted to buy it really needed the AC, and I told him, like, look, I can't fix the AC. He was not interested in it anymore. So I ended up owning the car. To the day of this recording, I filmed my highest viewed video with that car, the strut replacement video. That car I just used to give the Miata a break, because my current girlfriend now, we weren't living together at the time. She lived in Fort Lauderdale, I lived in Port St. Lucie. It was an hour-and-a-half drive, put a lot of miles in the car. So I just registered that car as a nice backup for the Miata, give it a good rest, and so I can, drive it around. And that was a car that I drove around while the Miata was painting. It got to a point with the Grand Marquis where after I replaced the shocks, I needed sway bar links. Then I needed front brakes. But then I needed control arm bushings. I got to a point where I'm like, it's gonna need more money than it's worth. It's a car that I can't fix the AC on. I already sunk, you know, $200-300 in like AC parts for this car. I cannot put more money in this car. After the struts, I was like, I can't put any more money into this car. So I decided when it gets to a point where I can't drive it, I'm selling it. The brakes started squealing really bad, and I lost the key. One day I went to go drive it. I couldn't find the key. It was not in my key ring. I couldn't find it. I waited 2 weeks. I couldn't find it. Tore through the apartment. Couldn't find it. Tore up my toolbox at work. Couldn't find it. I'm like, it must have just fell off because the actual ring was on my key ring, but the key wasn't on the key ring. So I was like, okay, lost the key. It's a Ford key with a chip. Cost so much money to get. I'm like, it's not worth the car. So junked it. Got $200 for it, I think, or maybe $150 for it. The guy came in, told it. Had a grand old day. 2 weeks later, found the key. It was underneath the seat in the Miata. Who would have thought? So ends the story of the flip cars. Grand Marquis did not get a name. Now, for the last car that I've purchased, definitely not the last one I'll ever purchase, but the last one I've purchased recently. The last car is the one, the only S10. For a lack of a better name, it's called Slim Timidator by popular comment vote by one. Slim Timidator is this cheap truck that I bought. I wanted $1,000 truck. Have the Miata. I wanted something that I can go to junkyards with, go grab parts, slap it in the back, clean them off, put them on the car. That's what I wanted. And what I got was a lot more than that. I've always loved old Chevy body styles, and I was jonesing after Chevy 1500 trucks, and man, were they expensive. I did look at a couple of them, not gonna lie. I did look at one that was at a tow yard for $1,000. He said it had like 130,000 miles or something like that, and I'm like, okay, looks like a good truck. All the way down in Davie, Florida. Davie's like almost Miami, you know. From West Palm, it's like an hour drive. So me and my girlfriend getting her Sentra, we ride on down to Davie, Florida. Oh my God, I never felt more catfish with this truck. We get to this tow yard, man, and like no one's there. Finally, some dude shows up. You know, I've been messaging him and I told him exactly when I'm coming. Dude shows up, sees me, takes one look at me in my car, does not even give me any energy. He's like, what do you want? I'm like, I'm here for the Silverado. And he's like, it's over there. I'm like, okay. So I go over there. You know, he has a bunch of cool stuff, but I go over there and there's this baby blue Silverado. Love the color. I'm like, damn, here it is. And damn, is it stinky, man. I look inside this truck. Windows already rolled down, so he just leaves his window down. There's old clothes in there. There's like deodorant in there. There's like someone was living in this truck. It stank in this truck. I'm like, all right, that's already making me feel some kind of way. Look back, the bed's all rotted out. I'm like, and because it was an hour drive, I'm like, please let me just figure out if this thing is anything worth anything, you know. Go back to the guy. I'm like, hey, does it start? He's like, oh yeah, you don't even need a key, just turn the ignition. I'm like, okay, if you say so. Turn the ignition, battery's dead. Get in my girlfriend's car, bring it up to it, put the battery, try to jump it, it won't even start. And at this point, I'm just like, I'm going home. Like, I had the money on me and everything. Like, I was ready to drive this truck home. And on top of that, both rear tires were flat. So I'm like, I'm not driving this thing an hour back. Like, this is so rough. Drive an hour back and for me to figure out what the I'm going to do with this thing. So I drove away. First time I've ever driven away from a vehicle, really. Usually I fall in love and I get it, you know. So, but this was the first one. It was slim pickings at this point. The pandemic was raging on. Used vehicles were just getting hard to find. Like, the cheap used ones are getting hard to find. And finally I saw this blackish S10 with, you know, this 6-inch cowl hood and $1,000 price tag on it. I'm like iffy. I'm like, this is some dude's project. He put $1,000 to get attention. He's probably parting out. I don't know what I'm thinking. Message the dude. He's like, no, it's a full truck, $1,000. I'm like, all right, there's a run. He's like, yeah. Sits around at my shop. I'm like, all right, cool. It's St. Patrick's Day. The year's 2021. I go to look at this thing. I bring $800 with me for this $1,000 truck. I always try to bring like a couple $100 less. And it's kind of a bad thing because you can always talk them down, you know, to the number. But I always thought that, oh, if I just bring that and nothing more, they might take it. But all that does is it adds an extra trip to the bank. So I go over to look at this truck. It starts right up, pulls right out. The guy's looking at me kind of annoyed because I'm not there with a truck and trailer. And it's super late and it's after work. And it's St. Patrick's Day and I'm wearing a kilt. Look at it. I'm trying to find something wrong with it. It's just running like a top. You know, it has a little bit of a mist to it. I'm like, whatever. It's low on gas, has old gas. It sat around his shop for a while. It was, from what he said, his second drag truck, and his wife's making them get rid of one of them. It had a 3-inch aluminum radiator. It had the rear diff was locked, and it ran and it moved forward and back. I didn't even know if it shifted. Try to tell him, hey man, I don't know if it runs. You don't have enough gas in this thing to see if I can take it around the neighborhood. And like, will you take $100 for it? He's like, no. He's like, I have more parts in this. I will part it out before I do that. All right, how about this? We leave it at your shop, give you half for it, give me some kind of bill of sale for it, and you know, I'll take it home. He's like, no, give me full amount of money for it, sign the title to you, you come get the truck later. I'm like, all right, cool. You go to the bank, pick up more money, give him the money, go to his house, sign the paperwork over, go home, and a few days later, we set up a day. We're gonna go X day to go pick it up after work. Our boss let me use the truck and trailer. I bring Patrick along, and you've seen him in some of my videos. He knows truck and trailer a lot more than I do, and you know, I just value him and his towing experience a lot more than what the few times I've towed vehicles. So brought him along, got the truck, got it home, and the rest is YouTube history. That is every vehicle I've ever owned, and it took a lot longer to say than I thought it would. I didn't think it'll take this long, to be honest with you guys. This is what it means for me to be a broke boy. This is what it means for me to be me. It may seem like a weird video, but at the end of the day, this is who I am. The cars that I buy, this is who I am. The adventures I go on, the breakdowns, it's all part of the adventure. Will I get AAA insurance? No. I don't know why. I honestly don't. I'd rather call my homeboy who has a ratchet strap and tow me away in a Civic because one of my wires melted. Like, I would rather do that all day than to go to a dealership, take out $30,000 worth of a loan, pay $40,000 for that $30,000 loan, have $300, $400, $500 worth of car payment, to have $200, $300 worth of insurance payment. You know, I would rather do this all day than any of that. I would rather go through what I go through on a daily basis than any of the dealership experience. I ain't gonna lie. I get into my girl's 22 Toyota Corolla, and I get jealous sometimes. When the car is available and I need to run to the store real quick, I always take her car because it's comfortable, because my phone connects to the Bluetooth immediately. I don't have to do a weird thing to get it started. I don't have to pry myself out of the car like I do with the Miata. But that aside, I'd rather do this all day. Somehow in my twisted minds, this makes sense to me. Not a lot of people get that. I've had debates about this with Patrick. I've had debates about this with my girlfriend. I've had debates about this with my own mother, but this is how I do. She always asks me, why aren't you getting a new car? When are you getting a real car? She says that to me. When are you getting a real car? I have real cars. I have the realest driving experience out in my driveway right now. That is the Mazda Miata. The most analog, close to the road experience I can get for $1,200. I got that for $1,200. You can't get that in a Corolla. You can't get that in a Hyundai. Maybe one day when I make enough. It's always when I make enough money, right? In the past couple years, especially through the pandemic, you know, I've seen a substantial growth to my income, but it's never enough for me to justify getting a new car. One day when I make enough, I might get a light duty pickup just so I have a vehicle to tow with. Most days I'd rather spend 5 grand on a 10-year-old truck, or even get a freaking school bus and deck it out like Jin Jim did. That's just in my blood, and I don't know how to express it any more than I can in this video. If there's anyone out there like me, let me know. Let me know in the comments. I hope this reaches people like me. I hope that out there is someone that sees this video and is like, yeah, just like me, man. At the end of the day, I'm just a broke boy living in this broken world that we got right here, and I'm just making the best of it. And if you guys want to hear more stories like this, drop a like, leave a comment, click that subscribe, because I got plenty of them and I ain't going nowhere. You guys have a wonderful year 2022, and I look forward to seeing you guys here again. Bye.